I talked about this a bit off screen. I would love to see Tarzan on a facilitator in this one as we see those mid lane bans come out from AL. 3 mid lane bans. Well, you know, 2.5. You know, Aurora potentially a top laner as well. But Galio, Aurora, Sylas taken off the board alongside the Azir. The priority on things like LeBlanc have gone through the roof in a series like this because of these bans. But you could say similar things for some of the more passive picks as well. Somehow Alistar has made it to game 4, and it will be the first pick here for NIP.
Yeah, one of the champions has kind of fallen off in priority a little bit, and you know that Sylas ban does allow for it to come through, so we'll see what they want to pair up in the bottom lane with it. I really think some of these aggressive lanes are quite good with the Alistar. I do wonder what we'll really see. I like a Tristana with an Alistar. That's just me personally. I'm curious to see what we'll have come out here. Misfortune. Listen, these AD carries are really starting to get mighty thin too when it comes to playable AD carries, so I think having an aggressive bot lane is really good for AL. Again, we want them to be a little bit stronger early in the game, and that's one way to do it.
Yep, going back to some old reliable picks here for these individual players. We talked about the Varus being kind of a 0-1, only picked once across the split so far for Hope. That's because he played a lot last split. Misfortune's in a very similar spot. The Yorick would also be that if they ended up going for it. But it's going to be the Rakan to pair up with the Misfortune. It does guarantee at least a more consistent bullet time if you can catch that alongside the Charm. But definitely a bit more difficult to execute than raw Lockdown that you perhaps would get earlier on in the series. But with the supports available, taking away, you know, a combo that could be pretty dangerous to play against on the other side makes sense here.
Thing of more dive buddies that could work with this Rakan a little bit later. You know, potentially Nocturne, Vi is still on the table. We are going to see a Jax come through here, so it's going to be exceedingly difficult to try to dive into this NIP team. I think that a Smolder would be quite good, but it does mean that you're really giving up a lot of pressure to this Misfortune.
It's leave, though. I mean, that's what he wants, right? He wants the hyper carry.
Signature
He
champ.
wants the late game. Smolder is locked. Smolder Alistar is confirmed as the bot lane, and you know, I'm not quite sure I would endorse this pick for other teams, but certainly for NIP, it makes sense stylistically. I think Hope's going to be in a great spot to really push this game forward, and Cassante will be the answer on the top side to the Jax here. Another pick that I think is relatively good overall. AL has a very strong start to the draft, but this jungle mid has meant everything so far in this series. How will they close it out? Are we getting 5 mid lane bans from AL?
And more mid lane bans coming out here, Kman, and I mean, this is just going to be really rough on both of our mid laners. One thing to note is, I like this early Jax from NIP because it does maintain a bit of a flex coming out here. With Xin still being on the board, AL could look to take him out of the second half of bans, and they could put Naiyou on this champion. It would be another, I mean, Jackson is not quite hyper carry, but it would be another carry into late game scaling Smolder, and with this Vi ban first, I think that's the indicator.
You think they're greedy enough to pick Viego here? You think they have the balls to bring that one out here in game number 4? Because I certainly think it's on the table. It's something to watch out for, and I wouldn't really hate it all that much, but yeah, we will see.
What else do they ban at this point? Oh, they banned the Viego.
Well, there goes my plan. You know, it's thrown out the window. I guess I spoke a little bit too loud. They heard me over there.
Damn, bro, you gotta quiet down a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
You can't give away all the secrets, you know? Especially to a guy like Tabe. That was many, many years ago, but that was still so funny. All right, this is just, I'm not getting baited by that. This is generally, I think, what we're expecting to see, the Zinda come through. And that would force NIP to pick a different top laner here. One of the options that is available is Gwen into a Cassante if they want it.
Would be kind of the obvious pick here, unless they have a different direction they want to go with the way that they want to play the comp, but I think Gwen fits perfectly with what they've set up. Smolder Gwen is absolutely terrifying to play into, and then you can move this Jax for Naiyou. Of course, it's actually going to be much more aggressive than that. We are not seeing a Gwen. We are seeing an Olaf get locked in here. Technically, this is still flexible, and it's going to be Karma as well for the Smolder. Yeah, Karma mid for Doinb, a classic Doinb pick from a long time ago. I'm talking like 2019, Doinb pulling out the Karma mid. Oh, this game has gotten so much more fun. If this is indeed NIP's last life, they are using it wisely.
And, I mean, Doinb he has so many good targets to shield in this game. Like, he can, the Jax, he's got the Olaf. I mean, he can speed up Alistar if you need to. Yes, Karma mid is not the menace it once was. Speaking of, Kassadin, also not the menace it once was, but still an incredibly good champion. Shanks says, in game point, game 4, give me this Kassadin. And with that shield that you're going to get, it will be a little bit harder for Doinb to bully him.
I don't want to point out a game 4 that maybe has already happened at this tournament, but game 4 of AL versus Weibo Gaming, you are staring down Shanks playing Kassadin, and while it is a Morgana mid on the other side, it's this idea, this identity of a mid laner that's going to be a bit more supportive to enable a very aggressive jungler, in this case the Olaf, and then a hyper carry bot lane. In that game, Shanks popped off on the Kassadin, was able to get going in the early game. They had no way to stop him. I think if Xin Zhao Misfortune can team up early, it's going to be really difficult. This game has to get snowballed by NIP. They can't afford to go late, even with the Smolder. I don't think you can afford to, have this Olaf play from behind. If you let Kassadin scale with the setup that they have on their side, I think things get dangerous very fast for them.
Yeah, it's just your late game insurance policy. And if you're AL, you need to make sure that Shanks' conditions are perfect, because it's going to be so hard for them to go after this guy with Jax, with Olaf. I mean, Olaf can only sustain his ultimate when he's hitting people, and it's so hard to stick on a Kassadin, right? So as long as he doesn't get ganked pre-6, you're able to keep the game safe for him. You're going to be in such a good spot. Notably, this is going to be Olaf in the jungle, so we're not going to have as much guaranteed CC coming through as we're on Summoner's Rift. It could be NIP's last game of the year. Let's do it.
There's something so poetic, Yanni, about potentially the final game of the year for NIP being Olaf, Karma, Smolder. It just feels so apropos to everything that they have built for themselves throughout the entire year. They will now get a chance to prove that this style that has been effective for them can be effective against the highest of competition. But they need to get this set up. We properly called it out. You properly called it out in the pregame. Naiyou is huge in this game on the Olaf, but it could start as early as now.
Okay, Counter-Strike. Gonna go down onto Tarzan. Here comes Naiyou. Tarzan, where's the flash over the wall? Flandre still wants this fight. That slow is coming out. He'll be able to dash away, but NIP have full control of this topside jungle. A really nice job by them. We're gonna see Tarzan loop around. It's on vision. Wants to contest these chickens. All right, who's going to get it? Shanks is walking up first. Tarzan gets it first. Naiyou forced to ghost. He's out of there. And a really great start for AL.
Yeah, I mean, that completely changes the game. If Naiyou is able to get that, all of a sudden, everything we had talked about really gets put into fruition. I would be concerned here for Naiyou, but we've already seen him behind early on at level 1 in the jungle in 2 different games of this series, and he's been able to recover both. I imagine he will at the very least be close here, but that first Olaf game of the split coming through for him, he will have to make it count. Both junglers going to be, at the very least, in similar positions, so neither going to get set behind too much as we see this Misfortune predictably shoving in.
And before we really get into the nitty-gritty of things, we want to thank our sponsor, ProDiff. If you want to play like the pros in your own solo queue games, you can take the chance to learn directly from pros themselves. Doesn't matter your rank, because the best way to start climbing is to schedule a coaching session at prodiff.gg. You'll be able to work one-on-one with an active or recent player in the NACL, the ERLs, or the LTA, and they will teach you to play like a pro. Get personalized coaching for the pros today at prodiff.gg by using code LPL10 at checkout to save 10% and support the LPL English broadcast. Kman. So far, Naiyou just getting the short end of the stick early on when it comes to the jungle. Tarzan has had so many advantages, and yet it has not yielded early game leads. Will we see a difference in game 4?
Well, we're going to see right now as Tarzan makes his way down to the red buff here. Naiyou's at half health. This is very dangerous.
I smell first blood coming through. Naiyou's got nowhere to go. He gets shielded. Tarzan with the re-engage and first blood to the AL jungler.
massive from Tarzan, perfectly timed from him. He's mapped out Naiyou's pathing to a perfect degree, understands exactly the health that he's going to be at, and really puts this Olaf into a bad spot. I talked about AL already having a gigantic scaling advantage because despite the fact that you have Smolder on the other side, it's really hard to deal with this Kassadin. Well, that's gotten even worse. Niket over the wall.
The desperation is, you can smell it from NIP. Doinb getting in there fast. They know they have to try to save this game, and it's going to be a 4v4 all-out brawl. Tarzan low, Shanks low, Naiyou dead, Niket with a triple knockup, but he can't save him. AL are going to stomp NIP into the dirt here in game 4. Doinb is dead. Double kill for Hope. AL on top.
Anyone's legend for the first time in this series. They are able to get a gigantic early game lead, and this might be one that they do not look back from. 2-0-2 for Tarzan, 2-0-1 for Hope. This is as good of a start as you could possibly ask for a team with a Kassadin, and everything is falling apart for NIP. The desperation is there. The nerves are clearly there for this team, and they just can't respond. It's a really unfortunate sight, but right now, AL, it's their game to lose.
The last global win for Karma, you saw it down there, and I have a feeling that we're not going to see another one. Take a look at this replay again, Kman. I mean, it just feels like they didn't need to do this.
There is no justification for this play being made. They burned 2 flashes to make it work. Of course, one is Niket's, but Doinb burning flash to get in is miserably bad. Naiyou has no damage at this point in the game. It's really easy, even with the Kassadin at half health at the start of this fight, to peel it off. And at this point, AL can just run things. It's super simple. You're fighting into Misfortune, Rakan, Xinjiao early on in the game. Of course you're not going to be able to win it. That's my reaction.
Yeah, that was mine too, man. I mean, I guess game 4 here, NIP took some inspiration from an old NA legend that once said, pick me whatever, let's just lose in peace. 4 kills to nothing, a 2,000 gold lead, less than 6 minutes into the game. Your Olaf is in the dirt. You're missing summoners on so many guys. It's just going to be a mountain to climb. If NIP win this game, I'm willing to say it now, it will be a miracle.
Yeah, it really would take quite a lot for them to come back against what has been generated for AL as they now take down this first dragon of the game. Still 2 minutes until Grubs, by the way. No real contest or concern to be set up for that. There's really no way to deal with that. The biggest problem is where the kills went. Because if you got kills on the Kassadin, yes, that's going to be really scary late game. But like, you can probably still deal with that in the early game. You can probably still run through kind of the wall. It went on Misfortune Xinjiao. Good luck fighting at Grubs. If you have to fight to kill Misfortune, to kill Xinjiao, it just becomes so much more difficult here as they continue to pressure down on the bot side.
You can see the BF sword chunking out Solokill. He's got a cloth armor, he's got a Doran shield, and that was just one auto attack. Yeah, it's a love tap, but I mean, it's still so much right now. We've swapped up the lanes here just to try to leave anything that you can. I mean, that has to be the new strategy for NIP, is now you're banking everything on leave.
I mean, you already kind of were in a sense, but now Naiyou is a non-factor on this Olaf, and he might be even worse. Tarzan is here. Doesn't have his team with him just yet, but Shanks can easily collapse on this. It's just going to be more problems. Naiyou going to waste at least a bit of time, but not going to walk himself into his death. Still 0-2 Olaf feels very, very bad in this game state. We'll see how he can recover. Naiyou has shown so many nerves over the course of this series. I think it's really coming out here.
Yeah, it's been really, really difficult. A lot of good play out of Naiyou, and the last couple of games he just has not been able to handle it under the pressure, Kman, and that has continued here into game 4, an 0-2 start. It is about as bad as it could be. Here comes Flandre with the teleport, and as Kael will escort him. Kael has his own teleport. I'm sure he'll use it. He'll go to the mid lane. We're going to see Niket teleport mid as well, as there's just not much for NIP to do right now other than farm up on these guys. I mean, they don't even have spikes that are like, okay, they're level 6, they can fight here. I mean, it's just not, it's never going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you're looking at in the next 5 to 10 minutes that's playable for NIP. You need to make sure that you can stay safe, but start stacking up. That's the goal here. Onto the Smolder. Grebs are started. NIP are in the area. If they contest this, this could either be really good or really, really bad.
Shanks is prepping that Rift Walk right now. Hope forced the flash away. He's got the bullet time in the back pocket. Kael taking a big chunk here. Shanks is going to Rift Walk away from the chain. 1 grub to AL. As we continue to play a game of chicken here. Knockups are coming through. Bullet time over the top. Here comes Jax on the backside, taking out Kael, but here to help. And Doinb is in trouble. Doinb is dead. Leave's going to be the next target. Shanks cannot Rift Walk out of there, but Solokill will be able to at least pick up the 2nd grub for NIP, but it's still a big win for AL.
Yeah, AL win despite Solokill's best efforts in that fight. He is absolutely massive on the Jax. He even picks up the grub as well to really cement that it's a good play for NIP to make considering the game state. But if that's the good play to make, things are going quite poor for your team. As we see the setup here, Tarzan feels aggressive enough to just dive in. But the knockup's actually really, really nice coming out from the Recon. The bullet time, while strong, is not too strong. And Solokill immediately is able to get onto Kael and is able to continue to push the fight forward. At this point, he's targeting Shanks. He's able to get the Kassadin down. Tarzan's ripping through the backline, but there's really not much you can do about that. At this point, Solokill realizes, hey, if I get 2 kills and the grub, am I going to consider that all right? He definitely considers that to be an okay trade, even if the gold difference between these two teams might not necessarily agree.
Yeah, and you know, grubs are good for them, right? We didn't really get a chance to talk about that because of how disastrous this game went, and we didn't expect them to even get 1. They managed to take 2. So, I mean, if there's ever something to hang your hat on, is that if NIP finds a way to out-rotate AL, to get valuable gold on Solokill, on Naiyou, then maybe there's something. But it's already a near 2,000 gold deficit in the jungle at 10 minutes here. Leave got a kill. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're correct. Leave got a kill. I concur that happened in that exchange, and that could mean something depending on how many more he's able to accumulate over the next 10 or so minutes. Really, at this point, it's the stacks. If this smolder is not burning, if this smolder is not melting through that front line, it becomes infinitely more difficult. And if you thought it was scary to fight into a 2-kill Xin Zhao, 2-kill Misfortune, how about a 4-kill Xin Zhao, 3-kill Misfortune? You don't even get the vision here. Naiyou is spotted going into the brush, and Tarzan is here.
Yep, they know that this is happening. Here comes Tarzan, 4-0-4. He's got the Sundered Sky too, so you know he's going to sustain a whole lot. He's taking a lot of damage, but here comes the rest of AL. There's Mom over the top. So being a 1-for-1 for right now. Will this fight continue? Niket wants a piece, but here comes the bullet time. Doing enough damage. Niket is so low, he cannot survive. It's a double kill for Flandre. He's now got 3 kills as everybody except for Shanks and Kael are participating in the kill department.
It's a huge win for AL that continues to push their lead forward. However, it is a shutdown going over to Naiyou that could theoretically get this Olaf at least kind of back into the game. We do see that Stridebreaker completed as that first item coming in, so at the very least you are getting something on the jungler here, but this is just a doomed play from the start. Tarzan, feeling invincible, ends up charging into Doinb here, not realizing that, yeah, the Olaf can actually still hurt at this point in the game. He does have his team collapsing down, but it's a little bit too much damage. The pullback coming in is just a little bit, there's not really a lot of ways to outplay that in terms of being the Xin Zhao despite the item advantage. Here, though, this is completely undefendable. I don't know why you continue this chase. There is nothing to gain here. Hope still has ult available, and at this point, NIP are just sacrificing their own lives. Not a play I would recommend making, but at the end of the day, all it does is give Tarzan pressure over this dragon and a little bit more gold in the pocket of AL.
Pretty sure one of our pro-div coaches will teach you to not do that. As NIP are sending everybody in the top side, they are selling out to get as many plates as possible, utilizing these grubs to their full advantage. Meanwhile, Shanks, Kael will try to help out here. They'll get some progress on this turret.
Yeah, they will be able to at the very least set up, but at least for now, it looks like it is going to be a teleport onto the top side. Flandre could be in danger.
Oh, we're just diving here. All right, Flandre just teleported in to die?
Certainly a questionable decision there from Flandre. Ends up teleporting in, but I guess technically he does save the turret, and with Shanks pushing here on the bottom side, that could be enough in order to get first turret gold over to AL. It doesn't look like it's going to be on this wave. But, you know, maybe that is a play that they consider worth making. I certainly would not. A bit of a blunder there, but we'll see how much it's capitalized on.
I mean, it is going to secure feats, so that's very good in itself. You did give a shutdown over to leave. I mean, like, you know, we talked about how far behind NIP is, but you know, giving stuff to Smolder is generally inadvisable. So I do wonder if that's actually going to mean anything later. You know, who knows? It could, but again, we're neither here nor there. That is a long ways away right now, Kman. What's not a long ways away is this Rift Herald, about 1 minute and 10 seconds. I think if AL are able to secure this without too many issues, they will really put the game out of reach.
Yeah, they just need a few more pieces to fall their way. It really just comes down to 1 or 2 fights. Shanks now going to be the one to defend the top tower. He continues to hold strong, and this tower will stay alive on the top side of the map. But looking at objectives, again, 50 seconds on both Herald and on, or about 5 minutes and 50 seconds on the Otacon, as Leave is just going to get chunked out by the bullet time in the mid lane. Hope half level up here, really kind of expressing that dominance, especially with that Bloodthirster completed. But really at this point, it's what play do AL want to make? They're overloading on the bot side right now to try to get Flandre that push. Do they want to keep that going, or do they perhaps want to move to the top side to contest over this Rift Herald? That will be the question.
Well, I would say why not go after the Rift Herald, right? You're just so much stronger right now. Use this early gold lead that you have, this 4,000 gold lead at 14 minutes, which is so hard to overcome early, to just go ahead and win these fights. You know, your misfortune as a Bloodthirster, so even if the bullet time gets interrupted, as long as she's not getting immediately blown up and killed, you're going to be able to sustain pretty nicely through these fights. We're already seeing some heal cut come out. The Executioner's calling coming through just to, you know, cut out whatever healing that you're going to get on the side of NIP. You know, again, just get those little edges that you can't afford to build this way at this juncture.
Yeah, Leave certainly generating some of those stacks on the Smolder. 163 at this point now is Tarzan, trying to make sure that those stacks do not matter as he jumps in onto the AD carry. See if this fight wants to continue. Kael stepping up, but looks like they just want to go for the Rift Herald here. I want to point out a big Cubby talking point that I'm going to steal blatantly here.
Let's hear it.
Redemption completed for Kael, not for Niket. That is a very important power spike on the current patch. AL should have a lot of combat power here.
Well, NIP want to find a way in. I mean, this Herald is not getting consistently done here, and it looks like it's going to reset again as NIP show up. Leave is half HP, and right now that means Solokill is able to farm up against Flandre, and I mean, that generally is a benefit here for NIP. I mean, you're able to kind of get your jacks generated a little bit more. Leave is able to just ping pong waves with Hope and get stacks. We need to start seeing a little bit more action from AL to really make sure that NIP can't find a way back.
Yeah, I agree that it's good to keep your foot on the gas, but it's also important to realize that if this game does stall, that still kind of favors AL with the comp that they have for themselves. And so really, they're not super forced into doing anything other than punishing NIP's mistakes at the moment. If NIP is going to step up for this Herald, this would be a great time to fight. Teleport coming in. This is it.
The engage is on to Naiyou. He's down to half HP. Another teleport coming in. This one's Flandre. So they expend 2 teleports, do AL. Means that Solokill will have alone time with this turret and should be able to take it with 2 grubs. But the Herald will go to AL.
Yeah, it's the trade that AL were willing to make here. They were very willing to sacrifice that bot lane tier 1 if it meant they could guarantee that success, and it's exactly what ended up happening. I like that deal because you can utilize that Rift Herald to basically make up for the loss. Nice dodge there by Kael, showcasing high-level recon mechanics. Right now, we're seeing that Rift Herald dropped. They're not going to be waiting. They are utilizing that to equalize right now.
Yeah, trying to extend the play here as AL. The charge is going to come through. NIP do have purchase of the river for right now. Again, just trying to do all they can to get Leave stacked up. He's at almost 200 stacks right now. He's really getting close. He's had a fantastic game when it comes to stacking. He's so good at these stacking champions. And if there's any way NIP want to get back in, he's got to get there. The question is, will they give up the dragon for it?
They absolutely should not. NIP have first track in here, but this is one that I would imagine AL want to contest over. Tarzan healing up a little bit. Kael a little bit low at the start of this fight, but NIP realized this is such a dangerous spot. Solokill could be on the flank, but it's going to be spotted out. Dragon is started.
We're going to see Hope get that mid wave in, and here we go. Fight is going to break out. Shanks is prepping that Rift Walk. 7,000 HP on the dragon and dropping, but very, very slowly. Shanks is now on the flank. Redemption going to come out here. Heal them up. They're going to try to chase out Shanks. They're going to headbutt him out. Solokill really can't find a way, and Mom doesn't do a damn thing. 3,000 HP and getting lower and lower. Where's Naiyou? He needs to make something happen. Bullet time coming across, and they shut him out! They lock all windows and doors to AL and do not allow a soul near that dragon. Doinb, Niket trying to get away, but Tarzan follows. Knockups, wind becomes lightning. Leave, dies. Doinb dies. Ace for AL.
That's exactly what we were looking for. You don't need to be the one to go in. You don't need to be the one to force plays. NIP will make a mistake, and when they do, you will destroy them. Anyone's legend taking this game into their hands. They lost game 1. They were down in games 2 and 3, but here in game 4, they are asserting their dominance. As we get a replay here, Solokill is completely zoned off. Leave wants to try to ult because it feels like they're engaging on the Jax, but it whiffs everybody. And at this point, there is no fight to be had. Once Shanks gets exhausted, at this point, there is nothing you can do about Tarzan. Shanks even ends up waiting out the exhaust and still rift walking in to do a ton of damage, even with the flank on the back line. There's nothing going on. We're in picture-in-picture.
Yeah, we're still seeing fighting going on, and we're seeing Doinb just get ripped apart by Hope. He's 6-0, he's 7-0, he's not 8-0 because Shanks steals that one. Niket will go down, and they're just being knocked down by Domino's Kman, and Kman, this game has really gotten out of hand. It was out of hand early, it's out of hand now. Otacon is up in 2 seconds, and you know, NIP, they're done after this game. Their year is over. They will not be able to make the regional gauntlet.
Yeah,
Doinb
unfortunately, unless they can make the comeback.
Yeah, and Doinb, after taking a couple of years off, is now back. In his first year back, would you say it's been a successful year?
Ooh, that is a very rough conversation to have. I think if you're going off of what their expectations were, especially after winter, I think it's reasonable to say no, that this team wanted to at the very least compete towards top 6, top 5, like be a contender for making the regional qualifiers, even if they weren't able to make it to Worlds, for this to be a Group Nirvana team that sneaks their way into playoffs and watches Niket get torn apart by the bullet time. You know, I don't think they look at that play as particularly positive, and I think that might encapsulate maybe how they feel right now.
You might be right, Kman. I mean, I think that Doinb individually has played pretty okay. Smolder is stacked up. He's going to die here, as they just dive him with impunity. I think that Doinb has played pretty okay this year. I think he's had his ups and his downs, but for a guy taking a couple of years off, we've seen a lot of players just look worse than he has. We're seeing another fight break out here. I mean, they're not even throwing things at the wall here, Kman, and seeing what sticks. It's just they're just going in. You can just see the faces of these NIP players, man. They look downtrodden. Like, Leave is just looking down despondent right now. It doesn't matter how many stacks you have. You know, for him, he's had his issues. He had his issue with that Otacon in the Kaisa game. But he has shown that he is a guy that can carry games. He's so close. He just has to refine a couple of parts of his game. And he could be a big player next year.
Absolutely. And we're talking about, oh, was this year a disappointment for NIP? Let's kind of flip it on the other coin for a second. Almost every single one of these players was discarded by some organization. They were told that you're not the future. You're not the player that we're looking to build around. And they all come together here on NIP around, you know, Doinb, a former world champion. And, you know, they turn into a team that, you know, can take a game off of anyone's legend, that can take a game off of top esports in a best of 5. You're looking at breakouts from players like Leave and Naiyou, who was excellent in the regular season after, you know, time on Rare Atom and LGD. You have someone like Niket, who was on RNG at the beginning of the year, who was bottom 2. Solokill, who came in as a mid-year replacement. Everyone wrote him off on EDG. I think in the lens of these players all being return candidates, all of them have raised their stock in 2025, and all of them I would expect to have at least something to say about the LPL's future going into 2026.
Yeah, they really gave NIP a lot of juice. Remember that NIP did perform pretty well in Split 1. Obviously, we had that in you know, that format where there was a bunch of best of 5s into playoffs, and you know, NIP had a tough draw. They drew AL first, then they drew top esports. They drew the top 2 teams. They had close series against AL, weren't able to get it done, and then, you know, they were essentially farmed in Split 2, and they were just, everything was so poor for them. but they made the necessary changes in Split 3. They had a great run in Nirvana where we thought they would be maybe the second best team, but also maybe in that 3-4 spot, and they really came through and were just so strong. And, you know, credit to them, hats off to them for how far they've come and, you know, how tough they played this series.
How tough they played every series. I don't think it's just today where this team has shown
Yeah,
up.
you're right.
I mean, they beat FPX. They took a game off of Top Esports, and they really pushed them in that series as well in game number 3, where you could argue they were kind of in the lead in similar ways to what they were in the middle of this series as well. This is a team that has proven that the bones, the pieces of it, the players on it are good enough for this level. It's all really just about that growth and development. We already got so much of it out of these players. You know, I'm excited to see what their futures look like, but fortunately for now, they are down 10k gold to Ninjas in Pyjamas. Shanks is just realm warping in. Oh no. Rift walk.
This is the last fight. We see TPs coming into the base. We see a bullet time over the top. It just doesn't matter. It's a triple kill for Tarzan. Anyone's legend. They were pushed hard by NIP in this series. A lot of games where AL were fortunate to be knocking on the base turrets, knocking down the Nexus, but Game 4 was not one of them. Wire to wire domination in Game 4. They have earned the right to face off against IG, and they have exiled NIP to an early offseason.
Anyone's legend come up clutch in the big moment. You wanted their best game of the series. There's your best game of the series. It was slow. It was dominant. You know, at times you could say it was a little bit predictable. I think that's fair to say after the first 5 minutes of the game, but they showed everything that you wanted to see out of them. You know, my panic meter was kind of getting out of control after game 3. I think they might have swung some things back here.
Yes, they looked like the AL that we saw in Split 2. Again, we've mentioned this before. There are flashes of this team that you still see. It's hard to tell, though, if it's a mirage or not. And that series against IG is going to tell us a whole lot, win or lose, right? Because you need to go and play good games against the best teams in the LPL. This was a team that, you know, we were expecting to maybe win MSI. They went to 5 games against Gen G. They went to 5 games against T1. They just weren't able to get it done. And to see them struggle here has been really frustrating for, you know, being like following this league and seeing them struggle at this point where they really shouldn't, and having hope and putting hope in them, no pun intended. And just seeing them struggle was very frustrating. And, you know, at least in this game, they were able to escape, but there is still so much to clean up, Kman.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of problems. This team's mid-games are terrible. Genuinely some of the worst in the entire league. They absolutely need to figure that out. IG will rip them apart if they have the same problems going into that next series. However, it is totally possible